Commission of the City of Lancaster, please come to order. Tonight, our invocation will be offered by Vice Chair Hall, and our pledge will be led by Commissioner Cook. So if you'd all please stand.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. This is a poem by Langston Hughes in preparation for Black History Month next month. He goes, I dream of a world where man, no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth, and peace its paths adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. A world I dream where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man is free, where righteousness will hang its head and joy like a pearl attends the needs of all mankind. Of such a dream, my world. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Diana Cook.
Present.
Commissioner Cassandra Harvey. Absent. Commissioner Drew Mercy.
Here.
Commissioner Sandy Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall.
Here.
Chairman Jim Vos.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public business from the floor. If individuals are unable to stay for the entire meeting, we offer a short period of time now to offer your comments. If you filled out a speaker's card and you've indicated you want to be an early speaker, we'll offer you a period of time of 2 minutes each. Ms. De La Cruz, do we have any early speakers?
We only have speakers for the items on the agenda.
All right, very good. Thank you. Therefore, then, if you wish to address the commission on any agenda item, we ask you to please fill out a speaker's card and give it to our Assistant City Attorney here, and we will call upon you then when the individual item is considered by the commission. Just to give you a bit of background for those of you who have not attended our commission meetings. This commission meets generally the week prior to this meeting. Here in this chamber, we meet with staff. We review the proposed agenda. We ask our questions and receive our answers. However, we do not deliberate, nor do we vote. We receive input and offer comment individually to staff relative to the proposed agenda. So when an item comes up, if you may ask yourself, gee, they really don't discuss that much, that could be because the members have already had their questions answered and nothing's really changed from the prepared agenda or recommended staff report. However, when items are called, if we have speakers, we then ask staff to give us a brief staff report. We call on the applicant or their representative to offer their comments to us. We will allow the applicant sufficient time to present their case. Then we call upon audience members who filled out a speaker's card, either for or against, and you're given then 3 minutes to offer your testimony. At the end of that period, the applicant then may rebut if they choose. Then typically we close the public hearing and consider the staff's recommendation, and whatever the vote turns out to be, that's what it turns out to be. So that's sort of the rules of the road. Once the commission closes the public hearing, we're done receiving public comments, and we ask you for your patience while we do our work here. The first item we have, well, before we start, let me just say we've received a number of items Our agenda, as you probably all know, is published on the city website, and then subsequent to that publication and the backup material that we receive electronically and printed as well, we often receive updated material, which we have received tonight and last Friday, on Thursday, actually, on some of it. On item number 2, the conditional use permit 17-10, we've received modifications to pages 2, 3, 10, and 11. The findings have been added, as well as the mitigation monitoring program. There's been information added to that as well. On item number 4, which is Director's Review 17-71, there was a staff report modification on page 1 on that. We've also received tonight, just this evening, a number of pieces of correspondence on, they're not marked, so I have to look. Item number 3, conditional use permit 1725. We've received 1, 2, 3, 4 letters on that. And then on conditional use permit 1710, we received 1 letter this afternoon. So that's the housekeeping. You folks can please take a seat. We'd appreciate it. First action item is our consent calendar, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 18th, 2017. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of December 18th, 2017.
I'll second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 3, which are new public hearings. So without objection, the public hearing is open on conditional use permit 17-10. This is a request to allow the construction of a 72-megawatt photovoltaic solar generating facility on an RR 2.5 rural residential zone. We do have speakers on this item. All right, thank you. May we have a brief staff report then, please?
Chairman Vos and members of the commission, the applicant is proposing to construct a 72-megawatt photovoltaic solar generating facility in the RR 2.5. This 430-acre project site is generally bounded by Avenue D8, Avenue G, 110th Street West, and 100th Street West. The proposed project consists of rows of PV panels, which would either be fixed or on trackers, depending on the specific technology selected. The proposed project would be constructed in phases, including site preparation, facility installation and commissioning, and site cleanup and restoration. The proposed project's planned operational lifespan is 35 years. The proposed project would consist of the following elements: photovoltaic modules, module mounting system, balancer system and electrical boxes, electrical inverters and transformers, electrical alternating current collection systems, including switchgear, data monitoring equipment, transmission and gen-tie lines, communication lines, energy storage solutions, and access roads and security fencing. The security fencing would be raised at regular intervals to allow for the passage of wildlife in response to a comment that was received on the draft DIR. The proposed project would not require the construction of an on-site operations and maintenance facility. These panels would either be fixed or mounted on trackers and would convert sunlight directly to electrical energy without the use of heat transfer fluid or cooling water. Battery storage would be placed next to the inverter pads located throughout the project site. A chain link fence would surround the project site, and a 10-foot landscaped area would be provided between the fence and the property line as noted on the site plan to screen the development from public views along adjacent roadways. The perimeter of the property that is not easily viewed from public roadways, for example, next to other solar facilities, would not have landscaping. Access to the various parts of the project site would be provided from a total of 4 gates. These gates are located on 110th Street West and Avenue E and would be set back 50 feet from the edge of the right-of-way to allow vehicles to fully pull off the roadway when accessing the project site. Irrevocable offers of dedication would be provided for 110th Street West, 100th Street West, Avenue E, Avenue F, 105th Street West, Avenue D8, and Avenue F6. Specifically, 110th Street West, 100th Street West, Avenue E, and Avenue F would be dedicated at 50 feet from center line. 105th Street West and D8 would be dedicated at 42 feet from center line, and Avenue F6 would be dedicated at 32 feet from center line. The final EIR examined the environmental impacts of the proposed projects on 12 different resource areas, including aesthetics, agricultural resources, air quality and greenhouse gases, biological resources, cultural and tribal cultural resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, land use, population and recreation, noise, public services, and transportation and traffic. These impacts were examined in depth, and mitigation measures were provided for potentially significant impacts. Specifically, mitigation measures were provided related to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology, hazards, hydrology, noise, and public services. These measures are detailed in the mitigation monitoring plan found in Exhibit B to Resolution 1801 and in the conditions of approval. With implementation of the identified mitigation measures, all project-specific and cumulative impacts would be reduced to less than significant levels. With respect to battery storage, I can't read from here. Battery storage is required with PPAs from Edison. They're required to be able to provide it, whether or not it's installed at the time of project construction. These batteries would be provided inside cargo container type structures on a concrete pad with air conditioning, fire suppression systems, and secondary containment. Installation of the battery storage requires fire department approval and compliance with the fire code. Specifically, the 2016 fire code is adopted by the city. In addition, we received a comment letter today, which has 3 specific issues. The first issue, the applicant is requesting anti-glare coating on the panels. Those are they already come with an anti-glare coating on them, so that's already addressed. They also object to the installation of any underground utilities such as electrical power collecting and control cables without strict compliance with building codes and in accordance with a building permit and outside the legal boundaries of my land. All utilities will be undergrounded. They will either be in the right-of-way or across private property and easements obtained from the property owner. No construction will occur on private property without property owner permission, and all construction is in accordance with the existing building codes and with an issued building permit. And thirdly, he objects to the project because it would cut off his ingress and egress from his land. And specifically, if you look here, this is the southern boundary of the solar project, and his property is that piece right there. These lots are lots that are not in compliance with the Subdivision Map Act. Any access that they have to those lots is through a private easement, and those private easements are not being removed. There is no public legal access to those properties, which the project would eliminate. And
So let me ask you, the comment period's closed on the draft EIR. However, we have a public hearing, so we have to take the correspondence into consideration.
We do have to take.
However, we're not obliged to respond specifically in the final EIR, right?
Correct. So all comments that were received during the 45-day public comment period, which ended on January 3rd, are included in the final EIR that was released and available as of January 12th, which is the 10 days prior to the hearing. Anything received after that point, you have been provided with. However, they're not addressed in the final EIR.
However, similar comments are for 1 and 2. Items 1 and 2 were addressed in the draft comments as well as the final.
That is correct. Additionally, a comment letter was submitted on the draft DIR, which contained an attachment to a study. At the time the final EIR was prepared, I only have that in black and white. It was subsequently provided to me in color. All of you have copies of that color study on the dais, and I also have a copy of the map showing the study locations there if needed, and I'd be more than happy to answer any specific questions.
Thank you. There may be some. So this was the only correspondence we received or input we received since
Since the close of comment period.
since the close?
That is correct.
Okay. So the 100 and ever how many page supplement on the final EIR document and the final proposed mitigation measures which you provided to us electronically are what we are considering tonight.
Correct. The mitigation measure, I believe it's the 5th mitigation measure for cultural resources, so CR5, was amended at the close of consultation with the Native American tribes to include their specific notification requirements. No tribal cultural resources were identified.
Very good. Talk about potential overriding conditions, if any. The way I read it, I didn't see any.
There are none. So.
Very good. I just want to confirm that. Thank you. All right. Any questions from anyone?
On the first slide that you had, you showed the project boundary, and I was wondering, there said that there were 4 other projects that have not been started that we've okayed in that general area. Are they in that general area, or was that something I misread somewhere?
There's 2 that have not been constructed at this point, and they are located here.
Is your mic on?
There are 2 that have not been constructed at this point, and they're located right here.
And that was taken into account in the cumulative impact on the EIR?
That is correct. So cumulative impacts are the project plus any past, present, and reasonably foreseeable projects combined as compared to your baseline. So your baseline is the day the notice of preparation was released, and that was June 30th. So the project impacts get compared to what was in existence on June 30th. And what wasn't in existence was added as cumulative.
On these solar installations, how many of them are going to have batteries? I know this one is slated to have batteries in the future, and most of the concerns I had about those batteries seem to be addressed in that one slide you had.
So everything that we've approved in the past, I would say probably 2 years, maybe a little bit more than that, the power purchase agreements require them to have the ability to put in battery storage. Whether it actually gets installed or not, I think is up to what's going on at the time. We've had none installed on any of the solar facilities that we currently have in operation. Southern California Edison is currently putting in a battery storage facility on 90th Street West at K8.
We considered that last month for conditional use permit, right?
No, this is actually an Edison project on Edison property that doesn't come through us for approval.
Why not? Are they so special that they ignore cities, right?
Yes, they are that special. They're their own lead agency, and so they get to act as their own lead agency. But if you were to drive down 90th, you would see it currently under construction. That started in December.
And we love paying their bill. What we love best, though, is Lancaster Choice Energy, because we get to pay less,
Just a slight commercial there.
slightly less.
So in the future, let's say a few years out, how many batteries could potentially be out on the west side?
So I don't know how many batteries could potentially be installed. I don't know if any of the ones under operation actually need to have them installed. There is a project currently submitted into planning that would do a battery storage facility, but we've just started the review on that.
Well, these projects are ostensibly sold to us as being environmentally friendly, and I work around batteries, and even though they're small batteries in comparison to what these are going to be, they're extremely dangerous.
So all of these batteries have to be UL listed. They have requirements that they have to meet through the fire department and through other regulatory agencies, and there are specific ways of dealing with them. These are not the first ones in existence. I mean, there's a battery storage facility in Tehachapi associated with Edison. There's one in Ontario that Edison has built.
Earlier, probably earlier last month or late last month or earlier this month, I sent an article about a battery fire in Hawaii and the runoff of the toxic materials from fighting the fire, because to fight a fire that's in a battery, you have to cool it, and that takes thousands of gallons of water. And of course, the battery is not made out of the most environmentally friendly substances in the world, so those are going to be flowing away from the fire, plus the toxic cloud that will be raised up. I just want to make sure that we are understanding what we're putting out on the west side when we ask for batteries.
So these are actually, they're in, the best way I can describe it is a cargo container. I don't know how else to describe it. And there's smaller batteries within that structure. And there's fire suppression built into the structure, similar to, we have a hazardous waste collection facility out of the city maintenance yard, and it's got fire suppression inside it, so if something was to catch on fire, it immediately floods and takes all the oxygen away. That's the same kind of operation. It has secondary containment, which is a requirement, and the fire department has to approve these, and they have their own individual permits through CUPA, which is the Hazardous Material Regulating Unit for the county.
Answers all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for providing earlier, for me at any rate, the stationary battery storage systems code requirement from LA County, or California Fire Code, I should say, which is adopted by LA County, which is adopted by the cities, as well as the other requirements that you hadn't mentioned is the California Building Code that this city administers relative to any proposed development, whether it be solar or otherwise. So the structures that house the battery storage facility, should it be developed, should it be included in the project, would have to go through Warren's shop and
They would go
reviewed.
through Warren's shop. They would also go through the fire department. The fire department has to review the plans and approve them before they can be installed. They would need their operational permit from CUPA. Similar to any other project that gets constructed or that would have what could be considered hazardous materials, they go through the same process. The fire department was also involved from the beginning, so when the project came in, they were notified. They received the NOP twice, just like all other agencies did. They received the draft DIR, and they commented, and their hazardous materials unit had no issues.
So these 500 or 400 and some odd double-sided documents that we all read, plus the other 100 and ever how many you provided to us recently, includes the total communication, both written and oral, for this environmental review.
For the environmental document, correct.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, may we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Chairman Vos, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to hear our project today.
Mr. Bean, welcome.
Thank you. Back again. We're excited about this project. This project is located about 1 mile west of Antelope Acres on about 430 acres, adjacent to some of our other projects and 110th Street. So this project will generate approximately 400 jobs that we hope will start in the March to April timeframe and probably continue on through September and into October potentially. We continue to work very closely with the AVA QMD, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, local labor, City of Lancaster, and the communities to make sure that we can build these projects to the highest standard. We've reviewed the environmental document and all the conditions, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have tonight. We believe that all of the impacts are addressed and the mitigation measures sufficiently will mitigate any impacts on this property. So I'd open it up for any questions. If you want to ask about battery storage, I'm here to answer any that you may have.
One question before, and just to clarify that you've reviewed the recommended conditions of approval for this project and you accept them without exception?
That's correct.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead.
I had all my questions answered on batteries, and I appreciate that this project's on land that's previously been used.
All right, anyone else? Have anything more to add?
Not at this time.
All right, then
Thank you.
you'll have an opportunity to rebut if you wish.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Speakers, please.
We have 7. The first one is Paul Henreid.
Mr. Henry, is it?
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. This is a year ago or so, I was the president of the Neenah Town Council just west of Antelope Acres, where this proposed site is being constructed. And we received a generous donation along with another town council for community development cleanup. Antelope Acres, from a solar company. Now, Antelope Acres Town Council did not receive such funds, so what we decided to do, it's hard to get people to agree what to do when you get funds like that. It's very difficult. You think it'd be easy, it's not. But we took the money, hired locals, and cleaned up from the borders for our town council from 300th Street to 100th Street. And I have this OCD because I'm a property owner right there. I was literally there an hour ago. You all are talking about my home, so to speak, or where I would like to someday build a custom home. And to that end, I even went into escrow on another parcel next to mine about 45 minutes ago. So this area is near and dear to my heart. But the problem is it's also near and dear to my OCD, which is easy out at 235th where I'm at in Neenah, because now the county has taken motor graders, water trucks, and made Lancaster Road from the prison all the way out to the aqueduct absolutely beautiful. I can clean up that road myself with one worker and a 96-gallon tote in 2 days. When we come to the poppy fields, there's isolated dumps. I could literally be the only human being on the face of this earth that could tell you exactly where they're at right now and take you there and tell you approximately how many tires and how much trash, how much recyclable material, electronic waste, etc., tires are located here. This area that you're talking about is probably the worst quasi de facto landfill wasteland in the entire western Antelope Valley. I'll challenge anybody to find an even worse place than this. So I see this as an opportunity because the trash out there is not new. The trash is old, 30 plus years old, which means no one's fixed it yet. And I'm hoping, because quite honestly, I could tell you how much it would take to turn that wasteland into a park. Under $10,000. 10 men who want to work and not look at their cell phones and do whatever during their work shifts, but actually work $20 an hour, $1,000 for your 40-foot dumpster from Waste Management, or get the Antelope Acres Town Council to get their annual 40-foot dumpster from the 5th District and put out there. 10 men over a week could turn that wasteland, which is worse than a third world country, into what looks like a park. I hope that the solar company, S-Power, right? I hope S-Power donates its time and energy like NRG has donated and cleans up this area. We know it's passed.
All right, thanks for your comment.
You're going to be our neighbor. I would just hope that they would contribute that
Thank you, Mr.
10 grand
Henry.
approximately.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Steve Pritchard.
Is it Pritchard? Mr. Pritchard, welcome.
My first question here would be as to what gives anybody in this room the authority to approve a construction project on a community that is on the other side of Antelope Acres? In other words, how come the city of Lancaster is involved in this at all? And where is your authority for granting this?
Is that your only question?
No, I have other questions.
Please proceed.
The next one has to do with, I'm not aware that anybody in the Antelope Acres area got to vote on this project. Are you aware of anybody that got to vote on it? No answer, huh? Okay.
We'll respond
Well,
to your
you folks
questions when you're-
don't live there.
We'll respond to your questions when you're
Okay.
all the testimony is
Okay.
completed.
Well, you folks don't live there, but it's our backyard. And we did not vote for this project. This entire process appears to be run just like an old-fashioned Nicaraguan dictatorship. And it also appears to be with a predetermined conclusion, just like all the other projects like this have gotten approved. Some folks may say, follow the money. Well, I ask you, who all got paid off to approve this? What are the benefits to Lancaster? There are no known benefits to the people living in Antelope Acres. In fact, it's most likely to reduce our health, our quality of life, and to reduce our property values. As Lancaster is always going to approve any and all projects like this, how about send each of us a check for 10 grand? You know, you're going to shove it down our throat. This is just another example of government overreach. They have no right to approve a construction project on the other side of somebody else's community. And I'll wait for your answers.
You'll hear our answer when, are you done with your comments?
Yes.
Thank you. You may sit down. Next speaker, please.
Wendy Murphy.
I didn't hear the name clearly. I'm sorry.
That was Wendy Murphy.
Miss Murphy.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Fantastic.
How you doing?
Not so well.
Oh.
Because I don't like what's happening to my neighborhood. I am not happy that I moved from a city where there's tons of city, and I moved out to rural because I wanted the dirt roads, the privacy, the be able to look out to the open canyon. Love the poppies. Those are going to be affected greatly. And it makes me so sad that there's more concern for other things that like this gentleman said, that we're not going to be affected by. We get no benefit from this solar project. We are going to be inconvenienced, but we don't get any of the benefits. We don't get any of the electricity. We don't get a break on our electricity. We have no, there's nothing good in it for us except heartache. So it's all negative to me. You're going to ruin that desert to put in solar that's going to last 35 years. It makes me very sad because now I get to look out my window and see a glass field instead of the hills and the mountains and the poppies. And I implore you to please just reconsider. I mean, we don't want it. None of us in the acres want it. But people that don't live there want it for whatever reason. And it appears it's just going to go. So are you hearing us? Do you hear our cry? Do you hear our complaints? Do you hear our concerns? It doesn't appear to. So please reconsider and don't bring it to our town. That's not why I moved out of Santa Clarita to come out here to be in that. I would have stayed in the city if I wanted that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have another speaker, please.
Mitch Klein.
Mr. Klein, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Bose. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Mitch Klein. I'm with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 11 Los Angeles, that covers the high desert area. I want to speak in favor of this project because it means jobs, good jobs to people that need it. We provide careers, apprenticeship programs, training. We take in veterans that are just coming back from the war. We're taking in at-risk kids that need jobs desperately. These jobs provide a decent living for the community. Some of our members that might be ready to lose their cars, they're behind in their house payments, they're having trouble putting food on the table. These jobs help us provide for all that. What I like to do is, some of our members that need some of these jobs so bad came here tonight. Would you please stand and show everyone that you're here and then how bad you need these jobs? So these are some of the people, thank you very much. These are some of the people that came out tonight because this is so important. I just have a question because building is coming, progress is coming. I've been here for almost 40 years, so I've seen a lot of changes. Would somebody want a neighbor that is quiet, will never fight with you, never argue with you, it keeps the environment, allows wild animals to come and go as they please, creates no noise, or have a school, a Walmart, retail stores, housing tracts, apartments, traffic, or congestion? Because it's progress and it's coming. So what I would just implore you to look at this project and consider passing this. You could not get a better developer than S-Power. S-Power works with the community. They provide good jobs to us. They meet with the community. They do everything they can to appease the environment. They're great people to work with, and they've done a tremendous job out here so far. So please, I would implore you to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Do you have another speaker, please?
Judith Fuentes.
Ms. Fuentes, is it?
Yes.
Evening and welcome.
Thank you. Here are my concerns. Dust. health-wise, except for the roadways, pads, trenching, storage areas, and parking and staging areas, this project isn't going to clear any vegetation. Well, these other things, storage areas and the parking and that could be like half of the area. So there's going to be dust. There's still going to be bad air quality during and after construction. Air quality monitors should be adjacent to the project and not 10 miles away. Finally, valley fever is being noticed in the AV, but now it can be ignored because of overriding considerations of this project. Jobs. New jobs are not being created. Workers are being used over and over again at different locations. Each project with the city should have acidified block walls to distinguish it as doing good for the community of Lancaster, not its neighbors. Light pollution or perpetual sunset to the west is what we can expect in the name of safety to these projects. What about protecting the dark night sky and preserving it for our children? Solar projects in Lancaster do nothing for my neighbors or me and my community except ruin it. And there will be constant buzz from the panels when they're working. This isn't to say anything when they're being constructed, because before all we could hear was the pile drivers for that. And this is what we get to look forward to, these ugly, disfiguring views that are offered from this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have another speaker, please.
Jacqueline Ayer.
Ms. Ayer, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Ayer. I'm Director of Engineering Operations for Air Quality Specialists, an environmental consulting firm. A couple of things I want to clarify. Edison is not its own lead agency. Actually, it's an investor-owned utility, and its lead agency, of course, is the California Public Utilities Commission. I have a couple of concerns. As you may know, this area has not been shown to be in compliance with ambient air quality standards for particulate, specifically PM10 and PM2.5.
You're addressing the entire Antelope Valley, right?
This, where we're sitting today and where this project is located, is what I'm addressing.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so I'm very concerned about particulate and dust control. The city recognizes that the viability of applying a layer of mulch before any ground disturbance activities is implemented. So I urge you to consider that as a mitigation measure that you include with this project, that you add that as a condition. This is prudent given that the residential areas immediately to the east of this project, downwind of this project, and also the increase in valley fever that we've noted. So I really, really don't want to be back here on appeal asking for that condition to be added, because I know S-Power has agreed to it on other projects, and I am asking that you please apply it to this project as well as a mitigation measure. I'm also a little bit concerned about, there are kit foxes in the area. I'm a little bit concerned about the mitigation measure, the language. It says, if dens are detected, each den shall be classified as inactive, potentially active, not active non-natal, or active natal. Active dens shall be flagged and project activities within 200 feet or 500 feet of the dens shall be avoided. But then later on it says, active natal dens, any den with cub or pups, shall not be excavated or passively relocated. I would ask that you clarify that any active den not be relocated, whether it's natal or not. And finally, I'm a little bit concerned about the discussion regarding cumulative impacts. Perhaps I misheard it, but I thought the statement was anything after June going forward is cumulative impacts. That's not how CEQA works for cumulative impacts. And I do want to point out that over 40,000 acres of land in the Antelope Valley has already been converted to solar development. That includes portions of our current county, of course. And so it's time that we actually start really looking at the cumulative impacts of these projects for real and not just kicking that can down the road. I've made that comment to the County of Los Angeles, and they are implementing, re-looking at the cumulative issue, and I urge you to do the same here. And I can provide backup on those numbers. No, not here, I don't have them with me, but at any rate, so thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time.
You've got one more question for you while you're standing there.
Yes.
I don't recall seeing your comments on the draft document.
I'm sorry, what was it?
I don't recall seeing any comments from you on the draft document.
I commented on the, I believe you would call it a scoping period, scoping era, and I know that the
At the
Dusty...
scoping, yes, but not on the draft document or on the final document.
I don't recall.
right, thank you.
The comments were submitted on behalf of Save Our Rural Town, on whose behalf I'm appearing as well today.
All right, thank you very much. And another speaker, please.
Mary Lou Nelson.
Evening, Ms. Nelson, and welcome.
Good evening. I'd like to talk a little bit about the dust control plan and the air quality issues. In the EIR and in the CUP, each of the concerns that I expressed in my comments on the EIR were mitigated away. I categorically continue to disagree that we don't have real problems with dust mitigation and with the valley fever issue. I suggested that the AVA-QMD, the City of Lancaster, Palmdale, even if they wanted to get involved, the AVRCD, and County Health Department, as well as residents from Antelope Acres, be allowed to create a commission or a committee that would review the Fugitive Dust Rule 403. In my opinion, the issues have not been adequately addressed, and they have not been mitigated adequately in the CUP 17-10. I serve on the Antelope Acres Advisory Committee, which is currently working on the dust control plan for CUP 1602, and that might be setting a precedent. It's in draft form, but it is allowing for the mulching of the entire project in 5-acre to 20-acre increments, and I sincerely suggest that that also be put into effect for 1710. 430 acres is a large tract of land. Our windy periods are coming up, and I believe that S-Power, if they're going to be good neighbors to Antelope Acres, they deserve, and we deserve, to take this under consideration. Dust Rule 403 has been tentatively going to be revised for the past 3 years that I know it. It's still on Master Rule Development Calendar for 2017. They're looking at adding an agricultural source for fugitive dust revision to that document, so now would be a perfect time, because I sincerely believe that 403 must be amended. And I believe that CUP 1710 has added some good things, particularly for the construction workers, but the valley fever issue has not adequately been addressed, and I refer you to the report that I submitted from Dr. Angie Lauer from the University of California. I believe you have it in your document package, and she's indicating that the watering is creating a public health hazard, and so that's one of the elements
Thank you for your
that
comments,
we
Ms. Nelson.
need to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have another speaker?
David Paul.
Evening, Mr. Paul, again.
Chair Vos and Commissioners, good evening. I came here tonight because I'm deeply interested in these projects and their effects, and also because I promised Commissioner Harvey I would attend some of the meetings because I go to the other ones and she was a little jealous. But and I was all excited because I have 2 teenage boys, so this Harry Chapin song is rolling through my head. As I hung up the phone, it occurred to me my boy was just like me. And so then the next day, I'm on my knees trying to pick some up off the floor, and on my bottom shelf of the bookshelf, I find this book, The 3 Laws of Performance. Now, any manager worth their salt or public servant should read this book, and it was put out in 2008 after I retired, so I have some leeway there. But it talks about what occurs to people, and that's how people base their judgment on what occurs to them. And it talks about case studies of going into mines in Africa and all these things. And it also talks about Northrop Grumman, which is why I wanted to talk about to Commissioner Harvey, but how they turned things around. And it involves involvement in changing what occurs to people. So I don't know a lot about S-Solar. I wish they would do a better job of meeting some of these people's concerns. It seems like that hasn't happened. But I tell you, from my point of view, I've lived here almost 20 years, and some of these dust storms have gotten worse. And it occurs to me when I see that it may have something to do with these solar projects. It also occurs to me looking out in this audience that all these men and women need jobs. So these are all things that, and the mulch idea sounds perfectly reasonable, but I don't envy you your task. This is very difficult to assuage everybody, and the thing is to change the way people consider these things. So with the mulch and all these things, we have to be able to find solutions, and if they can do it in a South African platinum mine, I think we can do it here in Lancaster, find common ground and have everyone believe that the other person is sincere about what they're saying and doing. That's the key. So thank you for your effort, and God bless you all, and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. We have another speaker.
Yes, we do. Virginia Stout.
All right. Evening, Ms.
Thank
Stout,
you.
and welcome.
Good evening. I would just, before I start, like to echo this this idea of valley fever that you keep hearing about so much. We are greatly affected. I have several friends who have come down with valley fever in the last 2 years, and I'll tell you, you get that very bad. That will affect you for the rest of your life. And those people that are working out there, they're people that are going to be the electrical workers or anyone out there, I would hope that they would be asking, what is it that you are doing to protect me so that I don't come down with valley fever? Something on that. Just I'd like to add that to it. It's more serious than ever I thought when I first heard of valley fever. I probably don't get it. Anyway, I'd like to also make a comment about the Lahontan Water, which said that they believe that the cumulative effects that were not well addressed as far as the discharge of water that coming across the property, the stream beds, that perhaps that the roadways and the construction, the pipelines, or not the pipelines, but the trenches, would in fact will have to go across some of these. It's going to alter ultimately because of the cumulative effect of so many. And we have pictures from around Avenue L of storms from past years, but really heavy, of the degradation of the land as the water pours off there and literally covers the street with mud. And so we'd like you to perhaps look at that a little better. I'd also like to. It says in there in your cumulative effects that you're going to you require a $770, I think it is, in mitigation fee, and that you collect that, and you're going to replace the grassland for the Swainson hawks and the burrowing owls and things like that for habitat for them. The 62 acres of poppies that were identified, the poppy field that everybody comes up here for the poppy festival to go out to, of which now you have to hope that the poppy reserve has enough poppies so people can really see it, that all of that, we'd like to see that. Where are you, do you buy that? We know that there's a property out by Ripley, but what, do you just keep that? We just hear that you have that, but we don't ever see anything on the west side, of mitigation that allows these animals that we love so much to stick around, for some habitat. And we'd like to see if there's some kind of a plan that you have to buy some of that land on the western end of the valley. Anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Stout. Do we have another speaker?
There are no more speakers.
All right, thank you. So before I ask Mr. Bean if he cares to comment and rebut any of the presenters tonight, let me just make a couple of things clear. First of all, this commission doesn't select projects. This commission responds to applications pursuant to the Subdivision Lands Act and our city ordinances. This commission is constituted by the direction of the City Council. It's the only commission that is required by law in this state for a charter city or contract city. We take our job very seriously. Personally, I've read every word in this document. I've listened to the comments of folks here tonight, and I hear exactly what they are saying because I've read what they have said. It's somewhat of a replication that all of us here have heard before. We all take our job very seriously. We don't select projects, projects select us. We respond pursuant to law. We make a judgment based on what we feel is appropriate, and if our decisions are not satisfactory to the applicant or to any citizen or anyone else, you may file an appeal, and the City Council will take up that appeal and make an ultimate determination. It's how the system works. So, I'm not going to waste my time on a comment regarding who's being paid off.
That's fine. What gives you the right?
Excuse me, sir.
Or the
Pardon me.
authority
You're done.
to-
You're done. You're done.
This has got to be a two-way conversation.
No, sir, it's not. And if you will not be quiet, you will be removed. Do you understand?
Okay.
Thank you. So if the applicant would care to respond to the questions that were raised, I'll remind you of what they are, and staff will also have the opportunity to address them as well. The authority I've just mentioned. The community does not vote on projects. This commission does, as well as the City Council. Property value issue is addressed in the environmental document and in response to comments. Benefits and community benefits are also addressed in the environmental document. Employment is also addressed in the draft EIR, and finally RR in the mitigation measures, dust, public health, air quality, valley fever, and jobs are addressed. Fencing, as well as path of travel for either endangered or other wildlife is addressed. Air quality dust control, and I might mention this commission does not have authority over the Air Quality Management District. We respond and implement the requirements that the Air Quality Management District imposes, Rule 403 and 403B. The mulch overlay, I'll ask staff to address that. The two comments relative to the kit fox, both active and natal, are addressed in the environmental document, but if you'd point that out again, I'd appreciate it. Also, the cumulative impacts as well. If I haven't mentioned it before, valley fever is addressed in the environmental document. Regional Water Quality Control Board response is addressed. Swinson hawk as well as burrowing owl mitigations are addressed. Habitat offset fees are addressed. I believe that was all that was mentioned. Mr. Bean, you care to comment?
It's one of those. All right, leave it at that. Looks like I did it this time. All right.
Before you start, that's the second time that's been broken. Now, I'm not going to blame Ms. Stout by any means. Go ahead.
Do I have to fix it? Potentially, okay. Thank you for the comments and the ability to address them. I think there are several things that were brought up that we're working to address with the community. One of the ones that stood out to me that we're currently addressing with the community is the mulching on our project site. So we have formed a committee with both the City of Lancaster, Antelope Acres, and the AVA QMD, where we do sit down and review our dust control plans. Those dust control plans will be implemented on this project site as well. Regarding the mulch on the entirety of the site, one thing that we consider when determining whether or not we're going to use mulch is the soil type. If you recall from the permits on 1602 and 1607, it's relatively sandy soils that have a history of mobilizing across the site. These soils are different and will require different methods. We'll look at using mulch where it is necessary on the site, but it's probably not necessary to use it on the entirety of the site.
So the specific design and plan for the dust control of this project, you're required to prepare that plan and submit it to the city as well as the Air Quality Management District. And ultimately, the city as well, city and city engineer, as well as the Air Quality Management District, then tells you precisely what you're obliged to do, and you do it.
Correct. And during the grading permit process, when we are grading access roads, inverter pads, other items like that, we're required to submit a grading plan, work with the City of Lancaster, and we do have to provide that dust control plan. So the City of Lancaster does have authority through
And
that.
then you have to implement it, and then you have to keep it in full force and effect through the entire duration of the project, up to and including the end of the project, whenever that may be.
Yeah, after the project becomes operational, we are required to have an operational dust control plan and permit for the project. That's correct.
Go ahead.
In regards to the drainage features at the site, we have evaluated these through the EIR. The only actual impact is along Gentai corridors. There's no water features actually on our site. As we run our Gentai to interconnect the facility to the substation, we are required to obtain a stream bed alteration permit, which we have, and we do work with the La Junta and Regional Water Quality Control Board to vet that as well. They have vetted our Genti route and approved it, requiring no mitigation or no additional measures.
So just to be clear, Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board has approved your plan relative to the undergrounding through any potential stream bed impact.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The Genti does run along the same path as other Gentis that we've constructed in the past, so we have.
And it's undergrounded, is that correct?
And it's undergrounded, that's correct.
Which is, for the most part, the requirement of Los Angeles County in which the jurisdiction of that Genti line runs.
The majority of the Genti is actually through the city of Lancaster. Actually, for this one, we will not be going into LA County at all.
So you had two routes.
We evaluated multiple routes in the EIR and vetted them both and have chosen on one that only proceeds through the city of Lancaster.
But they both have mitigation, so.
Correct.
It's possible you could change your mind.
We could, and if we did change our mind, we'd have to obtain another stream bed alteration permit and coordinate with the Lahontan Regional Board.
All right, thank you.
To address valley fever, it's definitely something that we're concerned about. We know that it exists in the valley. Our presumption is that it's there and in the soils. That's why we're working with AVA QMD. We work with the city of Lancaster to formulate a valley fever plan. Each of our employees are required to be trained on it prior to conducting any work on the project site. To date, and we are not aware of any valley fever cases with our employees, and I think the IBEW could verify that for us as well.
There's conditions beyond the training. Talk about the training. What does that include? The respirator aspects of it, the enclosed cabs of the operating equipment, those sorts of things?
Yeah, there's multiple mitigation measures that we can use for our employees, and it really depends on the type of work that they're doing and the conditions of the environment at the time. If it's a windy day, things like that, we will be shutting down work. If they are working in cabs, they will be enclosed. They are provided masks as necessary, but the goal is to not have them working out there when those conditions are present. So first and foremost, it is avoidance. Other measures to mitigate that is using water where appropriate, using tackifiers on roads that hold and bind longer than the actual water trucks moving up and down the roadways. So it's pretty extensive, and yeah, that there are measures we use. We've come up with these measures in consultation with the AVA QMD and other professional consultants we've worked with.
Plus previous experience over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Jobs as well, that was addressed, and community impacts. We do believe that is a great benefit to the community. We're proud of the fact that we do have people coming back to work after some of our other projects. I spoke with some members of the IBEW earlier today that are finishing up work on our Bayshore projects that were on the south side of Lancaster, south of Jay, and they're looking for more work, and being able to put those trained individuals back to work another time is a benefit, we believe. We like that it's continuous and people are getting trained up. If there are other benefits as well, considering the greenhouse gases, green energy, this project would be able to provide enough electricity to power about 18,000 homes. I'd consider that a great benefit to the community that we all live in and what we expect for our grandchildren.
Where does the power go?
The power goes directly into the grid, and then the way California works is once it's plugged into the grid, the power is purchased. That power, actually, once it goes into the grid, is then redistributed to the nearest loads, whether it be in the community or slightly over the hill, but it's going to go to the nearest load. The person that's purchasing the power actually kind of trades the power, so to speak, with other entities. So on this project, we're working with an off-taker that hopefully we'll be able to release more information about soon.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any more questions?
There may
Specific
be some.
questions?
Anyone?
I just want to clarify what you said about the committee that you have working on the dust control issue. You said it consisted of AVA, QMD, S-Power, and Antelope Acres? Was that correct?
That's correct.
And is it the town council? Is it residents of?
Yeah, Jackie Ayers and Mary Lou are both here tonight, which are part of that committee.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Don't go away. We may find something else to talk to you about. Ms. Swin?
So with respect to kit fox is protected as a fur-bearing mammal, and as such, their dens are protected, but Fish and Wildlife does allow for the passive relocation of burrows, similar to the way they allow for the passive relocation of burrowing owl burrows if they're not actively being used for nesting. So in essence...
So back up just a bit. The discussion of the fur-bearing mammal, as you describe it, is not your review and comment. It was, those analyses were prepared by whom?
A biologist. So a biologist prepared the biological resources report, and that information was utilized in the preparation of the EIR.
And the mitigation measures as well.
And the mitigation measures as well.
And what else? Let's just touch on the beginning, the middle, where we are now, and then subsequently, where does the biologist fit into the oversight on this project? Is there work done?
No, their work is not done. So at the start of the project, there was a biological resources report prepared for this project site, which involved doing a survey of the project site. It involved doing research through the CNDDB database, which is a database that allows biologists to report occurrences of species around so they can, and it's maintained by Fish and Wildlife. So they've done the survey, they prepared the report. That report was incorporated into the EIR. And those mitigation measures were also incorporated. And one of the things that is required is that the workers on the site are required to be trained about what they can and cannot disturb. There are pre-construction surveys that are required. If anything is found on the sites, they need to be flagged and buffer areas established. And there is a biologist who must be present during ground disturbing activities. And so they're to ensure that any sensitive or special status species on the project site are not disturbed beyond the, that they meet the requirements of the mitigation measures and that the species is provided the buffer to which Fish and Game has said needs to be established. If there is a different buffer that is proposed, that needs to be agreed upon with Fish and Wildlife and the City of Lancaster.
So the mitigations established for, in this case, the kit fox is our
Was
protocols
designed by a
that
biologist.
our protocols that California Fish and Wildlife is their standard, correct?
Correct. So as I said, similar to a burrowing owl, which is a sensitive species, if it's just occupying a burrow, but it's not nesting and there are no young, and it's not during breeding season, so not between February and the end of September, you have the ability to do what they call passive relocation. And in essence, that is waiting for the owl to leave the burrow and, for lack of a better word, putting a trap door on the burrow so the owl can get out, but it can't get back in. Same kind of thing would happen with a kit fox, but the biologist would then go and excavate the den so it cannot be reoccupied.
So the resident expert deals with this. Not the developer.
The developer does not deal with this. I definitely don't deal with this. It would be a biologist that is specifically hired to implement the mitigation measures. Copy of that contract needs to be provided to the city so that we have it on file, and reports of what are found on site need to be submitted to the city also.
So the oversight is compliance with the adopted mitigation measures and the contractual oversight on,
Correct.
From your shop. Go ahead.
With respect to the biological impact fee, that impact fee was established in 2005. It was based on, at the time, the West Mojave Plan, which was going through the process. That plan never got approved and applied to anything besides Bureau of Land Management. However, the city adopted the highest fee that was identified in that plan and applies it to all development projects with only two exceptions. The first exception is if you're taking open desert and you're converting it to an agricultural use, you do not pay the biological impact fee when it's converted to the ag use, but if it's developed subsequent to that, then they do pay the fee. They also do not pay the fee if the project site has been previously developed. So say City Hall gets demolished and something gets rebuilt, they wouldn't pay the $770 on the project here at City Hall because it was previously developed.
When you say 770, it's $770 per acre.
In the event that a regulatory entity, specifically Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife, and the Regional Board implement and require mitigation measures to issue something like an incidental take permit or a stream bed alteration agreement, and the applicant has to pay a fee towards that, that fee can be deducted from the $770 per acre that they owe the city. That does not happen often. In most instances, the developer does end up paying that $770. The city puts that into a special account, and that account is used for the acquisition of conservation habitat. To date, the city has funded the acquisition of over 700 acres of conservation property that has easements held on it. Those easements are held in perpetuity and typically by entities such as Transition Habitat or the Wildlife Heritage Foundation. Of those acreages that we have funded, about 20 acres have been on the east side at Kramer Junction, 58 and 395, and that was specifically to acquire property within desert tortoise critical habitat. Also had Mojave ground squirrel and desert cynomopterist. The rest of the property that we have acquired has been on the west side. That property has been around Ripley. We've acquired Joshua Tree habitat there. We've acquired property adjacent to the Poppy Preserve. And more recently, we've been acquiring property that connects the Ripley Preserve and some of the other conservation habitat held in that general vicinity with the Angeles National Forest. Most recently in September, an additional 80 acres was acquired. And so that's what the city uses their funding for.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, all the written comments that we received, some, including some of the speakers' written comments tonight, have been responded to and are included in the document we're considering.
Correct. So on the draft DIR, in addition to the regulatory agencies that provided comments on the draft, there were comments received by 4 members of the public. 2 of them were received at your Planning Commission meeting in December. 2 of them were provided in written form. So Mary Lou Nelson provided a written comment letter, and Linda Ford also provided a written comment letter. Ginger Stout spoke at your December meeting, and another gentleman spoke at your December meeting about the suitability of a location north of Avenue H for solar facilities. Those are the only members of the public who provided comments on the draft.
All right, thank you. as I recall, I did mention, or maybe, I'm not sure if I stated it correctly or not, that the proposed resolution 1801 does not contain any unmitigated overriding condition.
That is correct. The proposed project has no impacts, significant project-specific or cumulative, that cannot be mitigated, and as such, a statement of overriding consideration is not required. There's a section in your findings that's entitled that explains what a statement of overriding considerations is, and also goes on to explain that the project does not have any significant unavoidable impacts.
And the reason it's in there is you're complying with environmental law.
It's to make sure that the information is out there, and some people would expect to see it, and so we didn't want to leave it out.
Very good. Very thorough, actually, I think. All right. Anything further from members? All right, then. So without objection, we'll close the public hearing. So we have before us the recommendation. What's your pleasure?
I move that we adopt resolution number 1801, certifying the final impact report, adopting the necessary environmental findings, and approving CUP number 17-10.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, anything further from members? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, the project, if it is approved, in this case it is, by this commission, anyone who chooses to consider an appeal of our decision has the opportunity to file an appeal with city staff and pay the appropriate fee, whether you're for or against, it doesn't matter. If you choose to appeal, you're certainly welcome to. Thank you very much. Good luck with the project. Next item is item number 3. We'll wait till the folks leave. All right, item number 3 is conditional use permit 17-25. Do we have speakers on this?
We do have one speaker request card.
All right, then, so without objection, we'll open the public hearing. The recommendation from staff is to continue this public hearing until February 26, 2018, due to a legal publication glitch. We'll hear, that's the recommendation from staff. We won't necessarily hear a report on the project. I did mention we received 4 letters, which are in the record. And let's hear from the speaker.
Edward Mallory.
Mr. Mallory, welcome. Go ahead.
Hello, I've lived up here since 1978. and I've worked in several aerospace industries and raised all my kids here. And I've watched a lot of things change around here. In the particular area that this proposed gas station is, there's a lot of homeless mental health patients self-medicating and walking the streets. And I object only to their ability to sell alcohol. There's a lot of places around there that are selling them alcohol, and they spend their money on it and sleep in a bush. They're not getting any treatment for their problems, and I believe that if memory serves, when Bob's Liquor was still around, the city asked them to leave, and they moved across the street and lost their ability to sell hard alcohol based on the fact that they brought a lot of vagrants and increased the crime rate and so on, which is still happening in that area. And I think that another spot a block away from there selling alcohol would add to a bad problem in that area. There's a lot of kids that go that route to go to AV high school and back home, and they have to walk through this mess. And I believe that that wouldn't be a good thing. So I ask you guys to consider not giving them their alcohol license for selling, I believe it's beer and wine.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, and we did receive your letter, and the recommendation of staff is to continue this public hearing until February 26th, so the matter will be before us at that time, assuming that's what we do. Thank you for your comments. It's the only speaker?
That's the only speaker.
Staff care to add anything?
No, Chairman Vost.
Thank you. Easy night, Mr. Ronnie, easy night. How come you got the easy duty tonight?
I deserve it.
All right, so we'll continue the public hearing and consider a motion to continue. I guess I can just order that, can't I? I don't need a motion. Right? What does that mean?
The consensus is you don't need a motion. You can just continue the item.
All right, the item's continued till February 26th. Item number 4. This is also a public hearing, so without objection, it's open on Director's Review 17-71, which is an application to modify and increase the size and height of a sign on Hallie Olson Mortuary. So, public hearing is open. Do we have speakers?
No, we do not. We only have a request card from the applicant, so that's all we have.
Okay. The applicant care, well, let's hear it. Let's hear it. So you're not off the hook, Christopher.
Chair Vost and Commissioners, agenda item number 4 is Director's View 17-71. The applicant is requesting to modify and increase the height of the existing 5-foot high by 7-foot wide monument sign for Hallie Olson. The downtown Lancaster specific plan allows a maximum height of 5 feet tall by 6 feet wide monument signs with no internal illumination. However, the specific plan allows the Planning Commission to approve a sign that is not specifically permitted or prohibited in the commercial sign section of the regulating code, thereby allowing the applicant to propose an alternative design that could be complementary to the building and enhance visibility. The project is located at 44831 Cedar Avenue. The proposed height and width of the sign would be in proportion to the facade, respecting the size and massing of the facade and the building height. There are no other signs proposed as part of this application. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the proposed monument sign. The additional height and custom angled double face sign would promote the identity of the tenant, guide patrons to the business, and further support the economic development of downtown Lancaster. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
My only question is, Is there some kind of subliminal messaging having Leroy Halley walking behind that sign up on the, you see him back there?
Yeah, that was a nice benefit, bonus.
Okay, all right.
I think he was going to lunch.
I think he was.
All right. The applicant care to address us or not? You're not obliged to. You certainly can if you like. Are you Mr. Olmedo?
No, sir. My name is Jose Rios. I'm here on behalf of Leo.
Oh, all right. Welcome.
So a lot of what I'm going to say has already been mentioned by Mr. Owen, so please forgive me. So the purpose of me being here today is to seek approval for a more visible sign. The current sign runs parallel to the street and is nearly impossible to read if one is not perpendicular to it or if a car is parked along its curve. Code DRL11 allows for a sign to be no more than 5 feet, and this limits the visibility when the average height of a sedan is 5 feet itself. The current light box is 3 feet tall and sits atop a 24-inch base. The new light box will be 24 inches taller and will be mounted onto the same base. The sign will read the same and remain the same color and style. And that's all I have. Thank you for your consideration.
Any concern about the face material on this being vandalized?
No, sir. It's never been vandalized as it is now, and I don't think that we're very much concerned about it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Anyone? So without objection, public hearing is closed. Let's consider a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 18-03 approving director's review number 17-71.
Second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right. Announcements, Ms. De La Cruz?
There are no announcements tonight. Just everybody, please take care of yourselves. The flu is out to get you. I was out sick last week, but I'm feeling great this week. So that's all.
All right. Anything for the commission's agenda? I know we had talked about briefly. Residential development standards and the sexual harassment training review oversight, whatever it's called. So there's also a training offered. When is it? Is it this week? Next week?
Are you talking about the Brown Act training?
Yeah, that's 31st?
There's one on the 31st and one on February 12th.
So has all of my colleagues responded, have they?
Most of them have.
Ah.
I will follow up with those who have
Are you
not.
making eye contact with those that haven't?
No, I'm just looking at you.
Well, I'm the one, so I've responded.
Because you've responded. You've responded. I'm not calling anyone out.
You don't want to name names?
No, I like to
Okay.
stay on everyone's good side.
Good response. Oh, my. All right. Anything else from anyone?
Chair, if I can just get some clarity, you mentioned the residential development standards. Was there anything specific that the commission would like to see?
Personally, I'd like to get rid of the meandering sidewalks, but that's just me.
I don't think that's going
I watched some folks across the street from the post office recently. A family of 3. A youngster on, what do they call those skates with wheels on them? No, tennis shoes with wheels on them. not skates, they're something. I don't know what they are. They got lights and everything. Cruising down the meandering sidewalk, having great difficulty on that sidewalk. Once he crossed the street and got to the straight sidewalk, he was doing great. That's my only comment. All right. I'm not sure. If anyone else has anything, they can email you. All right?
Thank you.
All right, then. We stand adjourned to our special meeting for agenda review, February 12th, 2018, 4:30 p.m. in this chamber. Thank you all very much for the work tonight, particularly Ms. Swain and your team. My God, that's an accomplishment. Thank you very much.